Hello, welcome back. Today we are talking about the Midlife Mom's real guide to managing stress and spoiler alert, no meditation app required. I want you to think for a moment the last time that someone told you that it's really important to start managing your stress. Maybe it was in a doctor's appointment. Maybe it was while listening to a parenting podcast, asking you to show up or respond to your child in a certain way. Maybe it's from whatever the algorithm is feeding you in terms of health and wellness advice this month. Or maybe it's kind of a quiet knowing inside of yourself that stress is a real challenge and a real issue for all of us. And you're starting to wonder, especially in midlife, and especially now that you're a mom and don't have all the time in the world to attend to your own needs, you're starting to wonder what managing stress actually is and what it could look like in this season of life. My guess is wherever you heard that cue, stress management is required, the version of advice that you got or that you assumed was something like, take more time for yourself, try meditation, do some breathing exercises, do some more relaxing activities, really prioritize and make time for yourself, mama. And inside you're nodding, maybe even writing it down or calendaring it in, like meditate, breathe, try to take some alone time. And as you lived through your week, even if you were able to do those things that you had calendared in for yourself, my guess is that nothing felt like it changed deep enough or long enough to actually give you a sense of relief from the ongoing nature of the stressors in midlife motherhood. Maybe you felt better for a short period of time or while you were doing an activity that was relaxing, but afterward, after you came home from the yoga class and kids are having a hard time or something didn't happen the way you expected, or maybe you're just still feeling anxious and struggling with something on the inside, which that yoga class or that time out with friends didn't quite touch as deeply as you need. Because here's the thing, my friend, just telling someone to manage their stress without any real direction is like telling someone just to eat better without explaining what that might mean. So this episode is the thing that nobody gave us. Nobody gave it to me. I had to learn it through trial and error and with the big lift of my clinical background guiding the way. This is a real and specific livable framework for what stress management actually can look like inside a full midlife mom's life. And yeah, no meditation app required if that's not your cup of tea. One of my role models and amazing women's health educator is Dr. Mary Claire Haver. I am sure you've heard about her new menopause and now new perimenopause books. They're amazing resources. I highly recommend them. And I so appreciate her thought leadership in the space of perimenopause and menopause. She has changed my life and changed all of our lives. And I love her 5 pillars for what midlife women in perimenopause really need in order to feel well. Her 5 pillars are specific nutrition support, strength training, sleep support, clinician informed, hormone replacement therapy as a tool. And then guess what her 5th one is? I bet you can guess it just because of the title of this podcast episode. It's stress management. And these are absolutely the key midlife health areas to focus on. We're learning more than we ever have before how our hormones are influencing our physical health and our mental health. As a licensed professional counselor, couldn't be more excited to have stress management kind of elevated to the top of health priorities. And I think the gap in women's wellness education is really breaking down what stress management actually means and looks like, and then further breaking it down for moms who have kiddos or teens living in the home and don't have the time or mental or logistical bandwidth to take hours of time for self-care. So I read those stress management health lists and I feel like they're unintentionally superficial, but this is where my expertise comes in. I can add the depth and nuance that's required. The Vibrant Mom framework adds a specific, clinically grounded approach to stress management that was built for the reality of midlife motherhood. And I call it the 4 S's of stress management. So hang in there with me. I can't wait to share the 4 S's of stress management with you. And by the end of this episode, you're going to have a framework that you can actually use and put into action today. Okay, here are the 4 S's of stress management. Number 1, simplifying and knowing how to do this over and over again. Second S, savoring, which is learning how to pause and slow down, getting out of the current of your life and making contact with something really special and soothing in the present moment. The third S is softening and listening. So this is speaking to how to relate to your inner emotional world so that your emotions themselves don't become ongoing stressors because you haven't moved through or integrated the emotional experience adequately. And then the fourth is sharing, finding real relationships or real rooms of women where space is reliably held to be with whatever we're going through, not necessarily fixing what we're going through, but giving us that sense of that we're cared for and we're seen and we're not alone in it. And that experience doesn't change the outside stress, but it really changes the inside you that's experiencing the stress. Okay, let's break that down. Let's talk about simplification first. The art of stress management in modern motherhood includes continually being able to simplify the plans, the expectations, the way you're going to do things based on how something actually feels in the day, in the moment, versus how you thought it was going to be or how you planned for it to be whenever you put your calendar into place. As a mom, this is your daily reality. A schedule gets made, expectations get set, and then as you're going through the actual day and life starts lifing all around you, the experience of the plan is usually much different than what you had hoped would happen within that plan when it was originally put into place. And sometimes in that moment, the stress isn't actually whatever is happening that we weren't expecting, though sometimes that can be an added stressor. Listen to this. It's actually the gap between what was planned or what you had hoped for or what was expected, and then the reality of what's actually happening. And so the pain is in that gap, that distance between what you had hoped or needed or wanted to happen, and then what is actually happening based off of your energy, your mood, everybody else's energy and mood, things you didn't anticipate, things that just went wrong, like illnesses or new kiddo needs and demands, or other people not doing what they said they were going to do. Or if you're like me, chronically over anticipating what can happen and what needs to get done in any given day. So when we're in that painful place of that gap between what was expected and then what's actually here, there is suffering that happens when we're having a hard time and we're rigidly trying to hold on to the original version of what we wanted. And as we're feeling that loss or that disappointment or that fear or that frustration that exists in the gap, our mind can start churning out negative stories or unworkable stories about what's happening and what it means about you, about me, about your kiddo, about the situation. So simplifying is the practice of reading that gap with honesty and allowing an adjustment to occur. That might be an outer adjustment, like you're simplifying the plan, you're saying no to something, you're letting go of something that you had hoped for, but now you're pivoting and doing something easier or more reasonable, given what's happening and the temperature that's going on and the beautiful humans that you get to spend time with on a daily basis. Or it's adjusting the inner expectations. It's gracefully letting go of what doesn't fit the moment so that you can be present and available for connection, even in the imperfect new plan that's unfolding. And that takes a lot of like inner psychological flexibility. It's learning how to hold plans and expectations loosely and being able to respond and adjust to what's actually here. So I'd love for you to take this in and remember that simplifying isn't giving up on the day, and it's not giving up on what's really important to you in the long term. It's giving yourself permission to be in the day, actually in it, connected to yourself and others in the day that's actually happening. The second S is savoring and knowing how to slow down, to make contact with the beauty and the richness and the kind of soul nourishment available in the present moment. So I want you to imagine this. If you've been listening for a while, or especially if you're in any of my Vibrant Mom programs, you know that I love pulling on nature metaphors, and a river is a huge metaphor and image in the Vibrant Mom framework. So I want you to imagine this. There is a river and it is flowing in the current of the day, and the current of the river is continually pulling, continually to flowing. Sometimes it's kind of slow and gentle and enjoyable. Sometimes it's kind of splashy and dynamic and interesting. And sometimes it is rowdy and messy and difficult and exhausting. So the schedule, your mental load, your to-do list, the things that you're aware have not yet been done and really need to get done, those are all things that can be in that current. And when we're not managing our stress well, we're spending the day being carried by that current, feeling kind of at its whims, or feeling pushed around or kind of wet and cold in a way we don't really want to be. Savoring is the practice of eddying out. That's a boatswoman term of finding that still pocket of water on the side of even the fastest moving current, navigating your boat into that pocket, and it's a recirculating pocket of water that will hold your raft or your boat steady. So you can take a pause from the current, no matter what the quality of the current is, and you can regroup. So the practice of eddying out, stepping to the side of the current just for a moment or a few minutes and making contact with ourselves in our bodies and in the actual world, versus just like walking around being ahead. I feel that way sometimes. Like I'm in my head, I'm in my thoughts, I'm aware of all the things. Even if I'm doing well and happy, it's like in my head. And I think modern work and modern ways of spending our time just really reinforces that in our headness. And so it really improves our mental health and our experience of navigating stress with skill if we can practice creating some pause points throughout our days. These are like touchstones of inner connection that we choose to pause in and linger in throughout the day. So rather than waiting for like an hour long or a 30-minute long time of like air quotes, self-care or relaxation, instead we're learning how to weave in several pause points throughout the day where we practice slowing down internally. We pause the demand on the outside and we take a second to get out of our head and into our breath, into our bodies, and into life around us. Not the life in your computer or in your work, but like in pockets of nature or pockets of positive sensory information in your environment that can kind of help remind you of a bigger view, a bigger picture, and a sense of settledness and groundedness on the inside. So when we slow down, we can look in our external environment for little glimmers of beauty or joy or comfort or soothing available. And they're all around, like the light coming in through the window, or pausing and really listening to your kiddo's belly laugh, or that like first sip of coffee before anybody else is awake, or how good it can feel to simply step outside and take a deep breath of fresh air. or just to pause and notice how that flower arrangement on your desk or table appeals to you and brings a bright beauty into your day. These are not actually small things. These are the moments that remind us that we are alive inside of our life, not just managing it, not just hamster wheeling it, not just getting through it, but when we can slow down and really take in like it's soul nourishment, the things that hold meaning or soothing or beauty for us can make all the difference. So life's projects, other people's demands, our responsibilities speed us up, and our job is to practice slowing down. So entering the current, noticing when we're needing a little bit of soul nourishment, and exiting the current. Coming back into the current, and then knowing I've been in the current for several hours. Let me take a pause and get back to the human heart, not just the head of responsibility. So we're practicing a key skill here, which is present moment awareness and sensory grounding, using our 5 senses to help us break through the noise in our minds and really make contact with what's right here and right now and the human we are, not just the head that we are. So the current will never stop, but we don't need it to. You can develop the skills to eddy out, even just for 60 seconds or 3 deep breaths, and remember the you inside of your day. And remember the richness of what it means to be a human on this planet and alive to experience it all. So it's not about trying to find positive things in your day to replace or kind of bury underneath them the difficult things. It's more about widening your capacity to be with the mixed bag of being human. There's whatever's happening in the current, that's still there, but there's also a you that is more capable and expansive and creative because you made contact with something that you can slow down and savor and give you the right headspace and perspective to navigate the next twists and turns and splashes and bumps down the river. The third S is being able to soften around our inner emotional world and start to listen to the information that our emotions are trying to signal and bring our attention to. And this is one that I don't think anyone really talks about enough or clearly enough or simply enough, especially for midlife moms. And I think this is one of the key skills that can really move the needle on our stress management experience. Because emotions that don't get moved through and integrated don't actually go away. They become ongoing stressors. Our emotions generate thoughts that are really activating and that usually loop into patterns. And some of those thoughts are helpful and workable. Even if they're challenging thoughts, they can be helpful and workable and bring us down the road in a good direction. Or they can be really unhelpful and unworkable and keep us stuck and feeling disconnected from ourselves and bad about ourselves, and then just generating more negative emotional experiences. And this process can keep your body activated long after the original situation that created the emotional experience, long after it's passed. Sometimes the first story our minds tell us about a difficult emotion, especially, is usually fear-based or fix-it problem-solving based, and not always the whole truth, and maybe also not the most helpful way to nurture a deepening and trusting relationship with ourselves. And also maybe not actually the most effective way to handle the situation at hand. And underneath that first story that your mind tells you are clues. And the clues are in our emotions, not just our first emotions, but the mixed bag of emotions that we're having. Our emotions let us know what matters most, what we're longing for. Our emotions let us know what needs more support or a different approach. Our emotions let us know where we need to grow, where our deepest self is wanting us to bring our energy and attention to on behalf of our highest well-being. and most expansive sense of who we are. And so softening is like a relational quality that we can learn to bring to our emotions, even the ouchy, cactusy, painful ones. Not bracing against it, not trying to shut it down, not trying to problem solve your way out of it, but easing toward it with curiosity and care. Listening to the emotion and asking yourself, what are you actually telling me? What do I need to take a little bit more time to sit with, or where might I want to bring a thought partner in to help me feel this emotional experience in the best way that I can? So the emotion itself isn't the problem. The problem is rushing past or feeling bad about ourselves because we're having the emotion, feeling overwhelmed by the emotional experience or trying to distance ourselves from it as much as possible. That's the problem, because with all of those positioning, like relational ways of dealing with your inner world, you're missing the key messages. And if you're not getting the key messages, you're not going to take action that would put you in the position that your deepest self really wants you to move toward. And so it's going to keep sending up that message over and over again until you slow down enough and you increase your skillfulness and your capacity to be able to hear it. In the Vibrant Mom framework, we're continually getting more and more skillful at being connected to ourselves and our inner world, at increasing our capacity to be with our stress, be with our emotions, be with our challenges, and then learning how to become more flexible and creative to be able to take action, move through emotions in an integrated way, and step into the richness and the joy and the relationships and the lives that we most deeply want to live. The last S is sharing. And so, in my experience, the most challenging stress experiences do not resolve in isolation. Social connection is one of the most powerful stress regulators available to us as humans, but not all connections are equal. And sharing in kind of the way I'm positioning it in the Vibrant Mom sense means prioritizing connection with people who value mutuality and reliability and who want to go deeper and who can hold space for us without immediately trying to fix it. We all need friends or partners or mentors or counselors or just strategic people who can sit with us and hold our hands through it rather than rushing us past it. I think one of the most challenging parts of being a midlife mom is that even in our best friendships, everyone has a really full plate and conflicting schedules and their own hard seasons that they need to kind of go inward and just be in survival mode for a few days or a few weeks. And so as much as we love our friendships or even our partnerships, they aren't always available to us when we need them most. And I think much of the time, it's not a failure of that relationship. I do think that relationships evolve and change over time. Some we let go of over time, and we're sometimes looking for new and richer friendships. But I also think the invitation of really settling into midlife motherhood is to find a room of women or a strategic relationship with a mentor, or that kind of consistently held space is reliably and predictably available. It is on the calendar. It's happening once or twice a month or whatever the cadence is. And there's a structure in that relationship or in that room of women that is helping you to like eddy out of the current of your life, create that pause and step into an intentionally held space that will promote sharing of our experiences, normalizing, validating, but then also there's something really cool that happens when we share is that we get some relief of our pain, even though the painful experience might still be happening. We feel less alone and we feel believed and we don't feel shamed. And with that courage of sharing, that connection that we get, and the curiosity that's in a really well facilitated room, that can be just life changing. It changes the you that's in your life, and you can do the rest of your life a little bit better. So I want you to think about the relationships or friendships that when they are available, they do provide that rich kind of feeling of being seen and sharing in the experience of life with. Think about those friendships and just send them a bunch of love and gratitude today for the role they play in their life. And then also, I would love for you to consider this as an invitation to find a room of women where that kind of space can be reliably held, or find that relationship with a therapist, with a coach, with a mentor, with someone who can share in your experiences with you and kind of strategically help you to move through. So those are the 4 S's of stress management. And I don't want you to think of them as like a checklist that you're just going to go through boom, 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 one after the other. It's more a way of moving through your life and navigating the current of the river and navigating the stressors as they come. So we're practicing simplifying when the plan doesn't fit the moment. We're practicing slowing down and savoring where we can, even in fast moving or high demanding days. We're learning this inner toolkit to relate to our emotions a little bit differently, being able to soften around them and listen and take action around whatever is asking for our attention. And we're really prioritizing finding places to share so that when that load is feeling heavy, we have that tactile, tangible, relational sense of not carrying it alone. So this is what the Vibrant Mom approach to stress management looks like. And it's, not a meditation app. It's not another thing to add to the list. It's a different relationship with the moments that are already happening. And it's cultivating a relationship you within you that can navigate your inner world with generosity and richness and strategic support. We want this warm and generous and close relationship with ourselves and also with our lives and the most important parts of them around us. I'm curious if this episode is landing for you. Will you please share it with another friend, a midlife mom who really needs to hear it? And that might be your sharing buddy along this next stretch of your river. Thank you so much for listening, and I can't wait to connect with you again next week.